All right, welcome to the presentation. First of all, welcome. My name is Tim Walcott. I've been a fitness coach for the last almost 9 years now. In that amount of time, I've worked with almost 300 people, helping them one-on-one, primarily, helping them individualized programs and personalized coaching to help them transform their lives through fitness. That's what I do. And with this presentation, I want to go over, as you can see here, how your metabolism works. We're gonna primarily, it's gonna fall into under the umbrella of how your metabolism works, but more specifically, why that's important. And it's really important to understand this because there's a very, very big problem in the fitness industry, specifically around dieting, around fat loss. And it's amazing how many people are completely oblivious to this. They have no idea. And this is something that I'm currently teaching my clients because they don't even know. And a lot of them are not beginners, but they just don't know this. And obviously I didn't know this at one point either. But now that I do, it makes it's absolutely crucial as a fitness coach for me to know this. But I think it's equally as crucial for my clients to understand this. And if you're not a client of mine, I think it's important for you to understand this as well, because if you're going to be going through a fitness journey transformation of some kind, your health, your fitness, your wellness, all of this stuff matters to you. You're going to be going through different phases, whether it's fat loss, muscle gain, weight maintenance, strength phases, whatever the goal is, just intuitive eating. There's so many different avenues that you could go down. And regardless of what the goal is at the time that you're going through it, you need to understand this, because otherwise you get stuck, okay? So you gotta, first of all, understand how your metabolism works. Second of all, you gotta understand what that means. Third, you gotta understand that this now opens the door to some very specific problems that we do know how to solve. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. The other thing that I wanna go over just briefly is we're gonna go over calories in food and how all that plays into this, okay? So yeah, without further ado, how your metabolism works is what I want to talk about today. So we'll start with, let me zoom up here a little bit. We'll start with calories, okay? This is, let me see here, there we go. This is really, really important because food plays a massive role in our metabolism, which I'll be getting into and creating the connection for you. First of all, food and some drinks have calories. We could just say food and drinks have calories in general. Obviously diet pop, things like that. People are well aware of that not having any calories. In general, food and drinks have calories. Calories, what are those? Calories are how we measure energy, okay? For some of you watching this, this may be rudimentary and you may be far beyond this, but this is very, very important to set the stage, okay? And if you don't understand this, or if you understand pieces of it, you need to grasp this before we get into the metabolism stuff. Calories make up food. And each food is made up of three main micronutrients. So just to go over that quickly, right? Food and drinks have calories. Calories are how we measure energy. So that's how we measure the energy in our food. And calories make up the food. So that's what I was kind of already saying. But what's in the calories are the macronutrients, okay? So we have food, then we have calories within the food, and then we have macros within the calories, okay? That's kind of the way you could conceptualize it. Now that we're a little bit more granular and we're in the macronutrients, there's three of those, three main macronutrients. First one, protein. Second one, carbohydrates. Third one, fat. You've probably heard this before. You're probably well aware. You may not know how it connects with calories or even what these macronutrients do, but you've probably heard these words before. And this is really, really important because you have three main macronutrients and you can look at the differences here. So the main differences are how many calories, energy, how much energy is in each gram of this macronutrient. So for protein, 1 gram has 4 calories. Okay, so that means 10 grams has 40 calories. 10 times 4, 40 calories. Carbohydrates, same thing, same as protein. 4 calories per gram. So 10 grams would be 40 calories. 10 times 4 is 40. Okay, so in 10 grams of carbs, we get 40 calories. In 10 grams of protein, we get 40 calories. That tells us two things. It tells us if a food has 10 grams of protein, it tells us, okay, there is 10 grams of protein in this. Cool, we'll get to the functions and roles of that at another time, but that is important to understand. That's the first thing. The second one is like, okay, but how much energy is in there? Well, that's what the calories are. So then it's like, okay, well, there's 40 calories, okay? So this is the information that you're looking for when it comes to macronutrients. And this matters when we get into the metabolism stuff. Third one, fat. Fat's a little bit different. 9 calories per gram. So 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. So as you can see, 9 and 4, this is over double the calories that are in protein and carbs. This is very important to understand when you are going through a fitness journey of any kind that involves nutrition, which it should. A lot of people don't understand this. This is really, really cool, crucial and cool. So 10 grams of fat. 10 grams of fat, 90 calories. 10 times 9, 90. Okay, so this, I could get into a bunch of stuff here because I'm a big fan of, fat's really, really important, but I am a big fan of being very, very vigilant of where fat can sneak into our foods. That's probably a conversation for another day. And actually I go over that in my, one of my podcasts on Stay Peaked, one of my podcast episodes, which I'll get to at the end of this presentation. You can watch it if you want. But yeah, this is just important to understand, okay? 3 macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats. These are the calories per macronutrient, okay? That makes up our food, primarily. Now, when people talk about sugar, fiber, things like that, that's all under carbohydrate, okay? So those are important, but it's still, what the most important thing to understand here is there's 3 major ones. And I kind of already went over this, but this is even more granular. 3 major levels of nutrition. You can kind of conceptualize what's in our food as with 3 levels. So we have calories, which is the total amount of energy you consume and expend. Okay, so just from a food perspective, that's the total energy within a food, and we measure it using calories. Macronutrients are how much of the calories you consume are made up of protein, carbs, and fats. So if someone eats 2,000 calories, that doesn't tell me anything about the macronutrients unless I know the macronutrient makeup. I just know that it's 2,000 calories, so we know the total energy on that. Okay, well, if we know the macronutrients, cool, that'll tell us how much of those calories are protein, how much of those calories are carbs, how much of those calories are fats. And then the third one, these are getting more and more granular, okay? So general, less general, more specific. Micronutrients is the third one. How much of the macronutrients you consume are made of various vitamins, minerals, polyphenols, antioxidants, things like that. So these are all essentially 0 or non-negligible calories because they're so small, but they're very, very nutritious and extremely important. So if you've ever had like a greens drink, maybe it's like 0 calories or very low calories. I don't typically recommend them. I don't think they are particularly helpful, but they do on paper and in theory have a large amount of vitamins, minerals, polyphenols, and antioxidants. So, you know, from that perspective, you can kind of see how these are kind of irrelevant to the actual calories. So you can see general, less general, and then more specific, right? Just getting more and more specific and granular as we go down. So calories, macronutrients, micronutrients. The most important thing when we're going through, you know, like a short-term phase with someone, and by short-term, I mean anything under a year, to be honest, calories and macronutrients are going to be the most important. Now, this is still extremely important, but on a larger time horizon, okay? Micronutrients are important from a longevity perspective. So are calories and macronutrients as well. But if I'm going to build out, you know, a 6-month plan for somebody or a 9-12 month kind of transformation journey, it's primarily going to be leveraging and manipulating calories and macronutrients. And then over that time, tracking our micronutrient trends, assuming they're going to be tracking macros in that plan. And if they're going to be weighing and logging their food, which they should be. And if they're doing that, then we can track all of these micronutrients, because when we track those foods, it'll have it in the apps and whatnot. It makes it super easy. So basically what I mean is, like, when you're tracking your calories and macronutrients and you're weighing your food and you're doing that long enough, you can look back over several months after you've done it for a bit, and you can look to see, okay, well, let me look to see how much vitamin E I've been getting over the last few months. Let's look to see how much vitamin A or vitamin D or vitamin C or manganese or other trace minerals like selenium or boron or something like that. And depending on what your health goals or health limitations or conditions or diseases may be, or genetics, you may want to take advantage of the limitations around that, or the advantages. You can just kind of fill gaps, right? So a good example for me, I don't consume much vitamin E or vitamin A or magnesium in my diet. And a lot of the foods with those are very challenging for me to consume due to like just food intolerances. So I supplement with those 3. Makes it easy. Okay, so this is just some stuff to go over on that information, okay? So knowing how many calories you're consuming on a daily basis is important, because if you don't eat the right amount of calories for your goals, you won't achieve the goal and you'll be left frustrated, okay? So all about how many calories you consume. This is important to understand, okay? Again, that's highest level. Then we get more specific and less general. Calories are crucial, but knowing how much of each macronutrient is even more important if you want to change your physique. Like I said before, if you have 2,000 calories on something, or sorry, if you have 2,000 calories for someone, then that isn't really that good information. It gives me some information, but it's not terribly helpful because I don't know how much of those 2,000 calories are protein, carbs, and fats, okay? So that's where we need to know how much of each macronutrient makes up those 2,000. So that's what I'm basically saying here. You might be eating 2,100 calories per day right now, but do you know how many grams of protein is in there? Do you know how many grams of fat and carbs, or how much fiber or sugar? Like, these are really, really important. This is really important information to know. It's absolutely crucial when it comes to making predictable and informed decisions for your body and physique, because the function of each macro, short form for macronutrient, function of each macro and micronutrient is different, okay? Protein, carbs, and fat all function different and have varying roles in the body. So depending on what your fitness goals are, what your health goals are, and what your physique goals are, you need to adjust the ratios of your protein, carbs, and fats in each phase to accommodate for that. And that's what I help people do as a fitness coach, of course. Most people do not know how to do that. So 21 calories with 50, here's a good example, right? 2,100 calories, if someone's eating 50 grams of protein a day, will have wildly different effects on someone than if they were eating 2,100 calories, same calories, but with 175 grams of protein, okay? So you put these two people, right? This 2,100 calories with 50 grams of protein, 2,100 calories with 175 grams of protein, and then you wait 3 to 6, 9, 12 months, very different looking physiques. If you don't know the numbers, you are just guessing. And this is why you don't have to do this all of the time for the rest of your life. But at some point, everyone, and I get all of my clients to do this at some point in their journey, to track their food. Track their food, and I don't mean just tracking it by making a meal plan. I mean tracking it by weighing and then selecting different foods and making it fit. That way we can, seeing how it'll fit. And that way you can develop the confidence and the actual education information around the actual food that you're eating, as opposed to like, okay, I just eat this meal and it's pre-made for me, but I don't know what to do with it, or I don't know what it's doing. I guess there's protein in here because there's meat, but if you don't know, if you're not weighing and tracking the macros, you don't necessarily know, oh, damn, that's 37 grams of protein. Whoa, I didn't know it also had 12 grams of fat. Okay, I gotta now make adjustments on my next meal, maybe, depending on what my fat targets are, right? These are all things that I teach my clients when I'm teaching them how to track macros. If you're guessing, then you are wrong, more than likely, right? If you're guessing, it is just a guess. And you can get by with a lot of fitness goals that way. But when you're making a transformation that is truly life-changing, and it's drastically changing your identity, like to the point where you will be unrecognizable, not just physically, but the way you behave, the way you act, the way other people treat you, the way you treat yourself. When you get to that level, which is what I help people do, it's not just about losing 10, 12 pounds and being a little healthier. It's about pursuing excellence and going the extra mile in everything that you do, and the body that you build just being a symbol of discipline and relentless pursuit of excellence. When you do that, you cannot guess. You cannot guess. You will spin your tires. You will waste your time. You'll waste your efforts. And everything will be just so much harder than it needs to be, and you won't be fulfilled. You won't be rewarded with it. Most people try to do this with guesswork, and then they're confused when they don't see the results they want. So that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like, this is where like you can get by on generally eating healthier. I've done podcast episodes about this in the past as well on my YouTube channel, Stay Peaked, and it's like I talk exactly about that, where it's like you can eat healthier, great, and you should. But that only works for a little while until it doesn't anymore. So depending on what your goals are, and maybe you're someone who maybe that's all you want. You do just want to, lose a little bit of fat and be healthier. That is perfectly fine. You may be able to get some decent results with guesswork, intuitive eating, and generalized habit change. And those are positive things. I don't want to say that it's like a bad thing. That is a good thing. But at some point, if you want to pursue the next level and actually level up, then you do need to get very dialed in with these things. If you are a living human being, there are 3 main situations that can happen based on the amount of total calories you consume. So now that we understand calories and macros and micronutrients, kind of how they all play together, these are the 3 main situations that happen depending on how much we actually eat, okay? So first one is weight gain. How this happens is if we consume too much energy, so too many calories, okay, for what we need to survive. It all has to get stored somewhere, and it's either stored as body fat or muscle for the most part, okay? So this is oversimplified just to make it nice and simple for you, but essentially if we eat too much food, we eat too much calories specifically, our body stores it as body weight, And most people understand how this works. We call this a calorie surplus because you're in a surplus of energy. And your body goes, cool, we don't need this much based on the amount of energy and calories we're expending. We're going to save this and conserve it for later. This happens from too many total calories, regardless of the macronutrient breakdown of those calories, okay? So that the macronutrient breakdown of this is irrelevant. It's just too many calories straight up. Second situation that can happen is weight unchanged. So nothing happens. If we consume the amount of energy, calories, that we need to survive, the exact amount, or pretty damn close to it, it gets used for the daily functions, and it's just essentially canceled out, right? If it's even, it's canceled out, so we don't lose, we don't gain, we're just even. It's like you're living paycheck to paycheck with calories, okay? That's kind of the analogy. We call this your caloric maintenance, right? If you're not, this is actually, here's a good example. People constantly like, I'm in a plateau. I can't break through this number on the scale, but I'm in a calorie deficit. False. That is not what's happening, and we know that's not happening. You are not in a calorie deficit, which is shown to be proven by the fact that you're in a plateau. If you are in a plateau and your body weight is not breaking a certain number, it's not breaking through the plateau, you're by definition in your calorie maintenance. You've found your calorie maintenance, and you're living paycheck to paycheck. So you would need to make some changes there. Third situation here, weight loss. So this is the opposite of weight gain, right? If we consume inadequate amount of energy, calories, for what we need to survive, it gets used for the most important daily functions. That's what your body prioritizes first, of course. And then our body pulls from its stores. Stores meaning body fat is a good example of one. Loss of body weight, generally fat or, whoops, that's supposed to say muscle. To use for the rest of our daily functions. So yeah, ideally we want it in most situations. People want to lose body fat, not muscle. And this is where macronutrients come into play, as well as the general game plan for someone. So when I'm building this out for a client, what I have kind of in their plan, this is set up specifically for this, so that they can actually, when they do lose weight, that is the first goal, if that is the part of their goal. The objective is to lose weight, but then it is, okay, well, what weight do we want to lose? Well, typically we want to lose body fat, not muscle. So then we set up their nutrition to accommodate for that result. We call this a calorie deficit because you're in a deficit of energy, a deficit of calories. You're not getting enough. So if you're not getting enough, you're in a deficit, and your body goes, crap, we are not getting enough coming in for what we got to do. So we're just going to use all the stores that we've been conserving over the last few months, few years, decades for some people. And that's what that is. So if you have a lot of weight to lose, you just got to be in a calorie deficit for longer. Simple. So those are the three situations. Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like. Too much food, excessive energy. Second step, body stores the extra. Third step, weight gain. Boom, looks maybe kind of like that. Step number 2, adequate amount of food, equal energy, cancels out. Body uses all of it, nothing extra to store. Okay, nothing left over, paycheck to paycheck. Weight unchanged. You might look like anything. It doesn't really matter. You could look like anything, right? Depends where your starting point was. Yeah, photos are just there to help illustrate, but not nearly accurate, of course. Third one, not enough food. Inadequate energy. This is your caloric deficit. Body uses all of it in this situation, and then it's like, we need more, but it's not coming in. So this would be like what a diet looks like, right? And then it pulls from its current stores, and that's how we get weight loss. Okay, so that ties in the whole calorie, macro, energy kind of thing, okay? All of this matters dramatically for metabolism. So what is metabolism anyway? Let's keep it simple. Metabolism is essentially defined as the turnover of energy. So what I mean by turnover of energy, process of using energy for various functions. So it's like you could even use your car for an example. It's like you take fuel, put it in the car uses the fuel through, I don't know cars very well, but it takes the fuel somehow through the engine, it uses it to get you places, and then you need more eventually, right? So there's a turnover of energy. It's taking the energy, using it, and then it asks for more if you want to go more places, right? So it's the same thing with your body. Various functions that go on, and to perform those functions, your body requires fuel in the form of energy, and we get that energy in the form, at the highest level at least, from calories, right? So as it relates to our body, metabolism is the process of using energy, which is calories from food and drinks, for various bodily functions, okay? Metabolism equals total turnover of energy your body uses in a period of time. We call this is very important, okay? We call this your total daily energy expenditure, which makes sense, right? Total daily, so over the day, the energy, which calories, we know calories is energy, expenditure, so how much you're expending, right? So total daily energy expenditure, TDEE, is just how much total calories you use in a day. Okay, so a good example would be me. If I walk 5,000 steps today, I would have a lower TDEE than I would on a day where I move 25,000 steps, which I did the other day. So my TDEE was much higher than usual that day because I affected it by moving more. Okay, now there's many ways that we can affect TDEE, which we'll be going into, which ties in with metabolism. Okay, so your TDEE, it's your total daily energy expenditure. It's broken down. Let me see if I can zoom up a little bit here. Always nice when you can zoom up, you know? It's broken down into 4 components, okay? You have exercise, that's working out, right? Or deliberate walking. Thermic effective food. So thermic effective food is like when you eat something, there is a level of heat that is required to break it down. So that is real. And that takes energy, that takes calories. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is the energy required. We call this NEAT, and you may have heard this before. This is the energy required for anything that is non-exercise. So going for a walk doesn't count as that. Walking is deliberate exercise, so that would still be in here. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis would be like, I guess, anything involved with, I know you're walking when you go get groceries, but you're also grabbing a handful of bananas. You know, maybe your kid's in the cart and they want to go down, so you take them and put them down, whatever, right? Like there's lots of movement going on, and that would be neat. Or you're tidying the house or something, or you're, you're at work and you walk to someone else's office, or you walk out for lunch or whatever it is. And all of that would be neat. And then you have your basal metabolic rate, your BMR. Okay, this is your 4th one. And your BMR is very, very important, which we'll get to in a sec. All 4 are very important, but your BMR is going to be something that we address very specifically in this conversation around metabolism. Okay, so look at this. I'm going to have to zoom out probably here. Okay, so this is a really important sheet or illustration. We'll be coming back to this. Metabolic adaptation occurs in response to a given stimulus. You don't have to worry about that too much. Total daily energy expenditure. So this is everything. So what this picture illustrates is the 4 things that we just went over: exercise, thermic effective food, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, basal metabolic rate. So exercise, TEF, NEAT, BEMER. Okay, these are the 4. Now what this shows, as you can see, look at the size differences. Exercise, not that much. Thermic effective food, also not that much. NEAT, little more, but not that much in the grand scheme of things. BMR, massive. Okay, so in general, but this is kind of just like these all can kind of like wave depending on things that we decide to do in our transformation fitness journey. Okay, so and we'll be getting into that, but this is the most important thing to understand. You have these 4. But check this out here. So you have more control over these variables because they're mainly lifestyle related. Exercise, thermic effective food, and NEAT. So daily activities, scheduled exercise, dietary habits, so what we choose to eat, macros we decide to eat, not just the calories, but what macros and how much macros will affect the thermic effective food. And then NEAT, so depending on if we're, involved in various activities that are involve physical movement, right, throughout our day. And then obviously exercise, our decision to work out and exercise. That is 100% a lifestyle decision. So that's these 3, right? So they are a lot more in our direct control. BMR is less in our control, but still within our control indirectly, which I'll get to because there's things that we can do that will affect BMR in the long term. It just takes a long time to affect. But yeah, you have less control over this variable. BMR is largely influenced by age, gender, body composition, genetics, energy availability, which we can affect that as well, and overall health status, which we can affect that as well, and body composition. So there is a lot of things that we still can affect here. It's just indirect and it takes a lot of time, but we can affect these 3 right away. So when I'm setting up a game plan and a nutrition plan, a fitness plan in general for someone, I'm affecting these 3 things the most, right? Now, when I'm affecting these 3 things the most, they can actually affect the BMR in the long term, which I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. But yeah, we'll come back to this illustration. But that's just supposed to show you, right? These 3 versus kind of this one, but all 4 kind of go together, and then understanding that we have more direct control over these 3, less over this one. Okay, so High versus low metabolism. You've probably heard someone say they have a high or low metabolism. They typically are referring to how much energy turnover they require for daily bodily functions. That's your TDEE, right? That's your total energy turnover. That's what they typically mean. It's like, if they say they have a low metabolism, typically they mean they put on weight really easily. What they don't understand is they have control over this because, okay, maybe we have less control over certain specific ones within our TDEE, but as far as the total TDEE, we can affect that because we can affect various ones in there, right? We had those 3 at the top that we can influence. So it's not just all, it's not just all genetics, okay? This is important to consider when making changes to your fitness plan and chasing a certain result with your body because we don't want to rely on luck. We want reliable and predictable changes. We do not want to guess here, which is very possible when you understand how this game works. So that's kind of my goal with this presentation. I want you to have clarity and understanding about this. And it can be convoluted and confusing in some ways. So that's why my goal here is to really just distill this down so it's simple. So it's like, okay, you don't have to know the science behind it necessarily, like the super detailed specifics. But if you can understand what's actually happening and what you can do about it, that's the clarity. That's all the clarity you really need. That way you're not guessing. You're like, okay, well, I know it does this. Do I know how? Not really, but I know what it does. That gives you power. Okay, so how to increase metabolism? How can we actually control this? So let's go through this. So you have 4 things here that we can control that will increase metabolism. First one, moving more. So walking, any form of regular movement. This would be exercise and NEAT, right? So in red here, you can see we're talking about the 4 kind of which categories they fall into with our TDEE. Here are some notes on it, right? Moving more. You can do it right now. You can do it almost anywhere. You can see results very quickly. It's low effort, low impact, and you can multitask other obligations, groceries, etc., whatever. As you can see, I'm very biased for walking or just any general movement like that. Walking in general, I love because you can do other things during it and you can do it damn near anywhere. So kind of a no-brainer, low-hanging fruit. All of my clients have walking in their plan because it is extremely effective and it's low-hanging fruit. So we track their steps. It's extremely effective, and I recommend you do it as well. That's why I got this guy on, this ugly bug, because I just use this for tracking steps. Number 2, gaining muscle. So lifting weights regularly, it's kind of primarily what that is, or any type of resistance training. So this would fall under exercise and BMR because if we increase our muscle tissue, our basal metabolic rate goes up, right? Everyone knows that idea of like, okay, if I build muscle, I'll probably have a bigger metabolism. Yes, but more specifically, we'll have a bigger BMR, which will increase our total TDEE, right? So BMR plus exercise will help with that. So it'll help build our total. So let's go through this, some notes on this. So gaining muscle, you can do it right now as well. You can just start working out. Second one, takes a lot of time to see results. So that's a little bit of a drawback in the sense of it just requires patience, right? It takes a long time to build muscle. 3, high effort, hard work. There's no easy way to do this. It literally requires strenuous, hard, high effort work all the time. And then the last one, can't multitask, you need entire focus. So these are like kind of just some notes that like drawbacks, pros, cons, whatever, but they're all important to kind of know. And these are kind of things that I consider as I've kind of developed my one-on-one coaching program that I help people with. So this is kind of me taken from that, kind of the lens that I use as a coach. Number 3, gaining weight, muscle ideally, of course. So we already kind of touched on that with gaining muscle, but I said gaining weight because if we gain weight, it also increases our metabolism too because your BMR goes up, right? So if you gain weight, whether it's fat or muscle, your BMR will go up because it requires more energy now to maintain that weight. If you're 200 pounds right now, your BMR will go up if you're 220 pounds a few months from now, okay? Now, that's not what we don't want to gain weight just for the sake of increasing our BMR. We would prefer to get leaner or stay as lean, even if we were the same, but more muscle, that would be great. So yeah, like I said, similar to gaining muscle above, but the weight in general increases BMR due to more mass demanding more energy to sustain it. So more mass demands more energy. Whether that mass is muscle or fat, it needs more energy to sustain that thing. Okay. And then the 4th one, eating a high protein diet and a high fiber diet. So these are hang on, let me change this. These are like the general targets that I give people, depending on a few things here, but generally around 1 gram per pound of body weight particularly lean body weight. So if someone's very over fat and there's a lot of extra body fat, they could eat a lot less protein. So a good example, if someone's 300 pounds, they have 60, 70, 80, 100 pounds of body fat to lose, then maybe they eat 200, 220, 230 grams of protein, right? Not 300 just because they weigh 300. Someone like me, where I'm already relatively lean, I'm in a diet phase right now, I eat actually over 1 gram per pound of body weight. And that doesn't mean you need to, but it kind of depends on the person. But this is kind of a good thing to go off, that like plus or minus 1 gram per pound of body weight is a good target to aim for. And then fiber, 20 to 30 grams of fiber. Now this will affect TEF. It'll also affect BMR, I should say, because if you eat more protein, you're going to have a higher chance of building more muscle, which will then affect your metabolism because you're going to have a higher basal metabolic rate. So some notes on this. So you can do it right now. You could literally start right now. Second one, you can see results fairly quickly. Muscle effects take longer, but as far as like high protein, high fiber, you could maybe the muscle will take some time, but you'll feel it and you will look a little bit different just in your general composition. And it happens fairly quickly. Low effort, mostly. It doesn't take a ton of effort. It's largely around like knowledge and education and just having the skills to how to select foods that have high protein and high fiber and put it into a healthy meal. And I help my clients with that as well. But it's relatively low effort in that sense. The last one is it can cost more money. So that is a bit of a drawback. So higher protein, if you're going to eat 200 grams of protein like I'm eating right now, as opposed to eating your normal 120, that's going to cost you a little bit more money. Now, I probably save money because I eat a lot less junk, a lot less snacks. So it's still actually cheaper in the long run. Still save money in the long run to eat healthy. Everybody always says eating healthy costs a lot of money. I think it's actually much more affordable because in the long run, you will pay for it severely if you do not eat healthy. Okay, so metabolic adaptation. Now we've kind of gone over a lot of the basics, the fundamentals of this stuff. This is where we get into a problem. So I want to explain what metabolic adaptation is. Nobody understands this. This is what we need to understand. When we spend time in a weight loss phase, this means that we are under consuming adequate calories intentionally, right? This is what we went over before. This is a calorie deficit. We're deliberately under consuming the calories we need to maintain our body. If we're doing that, great. That is a successful diet. We are successfully in a caloric deficit. We need to stay there now as long as we need to achieve the desired outcome that we want. If we do this long enough, the body loses weight. Mostly body fat, if our plan is set up correctly, is where the macronutrients come in, and as well as the training and someone's entire game plan that ideally a coach has set them up with. During this process, your body responds by slowing down daily functions that are less important. So think about it. Your body's lacking the fuel that it needs. It goes, okay, turn off the things that don't matter anymore, or at least down-regulate those things, and let's prioritize, make sure all the energy goes to the things we really need. So think about, this is a good example, blinking, fidgeting, even heart rate, these all slow down. So depending on where people are in their diet phase and how aggressive the caloric deficit is. But these are examples of things that your body would start to slow down. Even speech, how fast someone talks, you'll notice farther in a diet phase, typically people even talk slower. And that is automatic. They're not doing that consciously. That is your body's design. And because it wants to focus more on things like digestion, cognitive function, and various other systems in the body that are much, much more important to survival. So this is a result of the body's intelligent design of self-preservation in general, because it's trying to keep you alive. So it thinks you're in a famine. Okay, when we're under consuming adequate calories, it's like, okay, well, we're not eating enough food. It doesn't know there's a supermarket and you have food all around in your kitchen. You're just choosing not to eat it. It thinks you're going to die. It thinks you're going to die because if you continue to do that, you would, right? It's essentially controlled starvation when you are in a caloric deficit. So if it continues long enough, you would die of starvation. So your body knows this. So it immediately starts to downregulate these various functions and it moves into self-preservation mode. There's no such thing as starvation mode, but this is kind of what people mean with that. But that's been totally debunked, but also kind of bastardized. But self-preservation is a real thing. Metabolic adaptation as a result is a real thing. Your body is always looking for efficiency and balance. So if you're familiar with homeostasis, right? A lot of people have heard that word from, grade 10 science or whatever. This is really, really important to understand because your body is burning a high amount of energy Burning a high amount of energy when not enough energy is coming in is not efficient, right? So good example. You have a job and you're making $100,000 a year, and you got a dope house, awesome car, you go on 3 trips a year, whatever it is. You got all these bills, but you're making money, you feel good, you're happy, everybody's happy. And then you lose your job. Then it's like, okay, we don't have money coming in. Immediately what you do is you go, okay, we got to cut unnecessary expenses immediately, and I got to go find another job because I got to get fuel to come, I got to get energy to come back in. But regardless of that, you're trying to be efficient, because it's like, okay, I don't have the money coming in, so let's cut out all of these unnecessary things where I'm spending money, aka energy in this case. So your body does the same thing here. Basically, your body has automatic systems in place to keep you from dying of starvation. Okay, this is what we call metabolic adaptation, and this happens naturally when you start dieting. So a lot of people think like you diet, you eat less, you burn fat. That's all that happens. It's like, no, there's a lot of shifts, hormonal changes, and adaptations that are happening under the hood, behind the scenes, that I'm well aware of as a coach, and is my job to know that with my clients. But a lot of my clients do not know this. If you're one of my clients watching this, this is really important that you do watch this, and I hope this makes sense to you. If it doesn't, send me a message when you're done this video, of course, and I'll help you work it out. But this is really, really important to understand, because it helps you conceptualize the entire transformation for you and what that actually looks like, as opposed to like, I lose fat and then I'm happy and healthy and fit. It's like, no, you lose fat, and that's one of many phases over years of changing your body. This will be part 1. I'm going to do a part 2 presentation on that as well, which will be like how to map out, how this all fits with mapping out your own transformation journey and what that actually looks like, as opposed to like, here's a body fat, or here's a fat loss phase. That's all you need to do. It's like, everybody always wants to lose fat, but like, that's one small piece of the overall journey. Okay, so this is we went over metabolic adaptation there. This is the biggest problem with dieting, and is very important to understand this. So what do we do about this problem? Okay. You remember this chart? We already went over this. Exercise, TEF, NEAT, BEMER, right? So we got these 4 things that make up our total daily energy expenditure. We have more control over these 3, at least directly, a little bit of control over BMR indirectly, and over the long term. That's kind of what to take away from that, okay? Actually, I guess before we get into that, because before we get into the next part, we just touched on metabolic adaptation here and what that is, right? How that relates to these, okay, is now you can look on the left side of this illustration here. You can see the word upregulation, energy surplus, downregulation, energy deficit. So energy surplus is when I was talking about before, when we're eating calories in a surplus, we have too much energy, more than what we need. And then energy deficit is not enough. It's inadequate energy, not enough calories, okay? So that's like when we're in a diet phase. Now, why downregulation, upregulation matters is because all of these things in an energy surplus, right? When we have high amounts of energy surplus, these are all upregulated, okay? Specifically, your basal metabolic rate, okay? To an extent, these are as well, but what's most important to understand is how these affect your BMR, okay? Your BMR would, like, if that could move this blue bar would just kind of shrink down a little bit if we're in a deficit. So if we're in a calorie deficit, this just continues to go down, 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 down. It shrinks down and down the longer you deficit for. Okay. When we add in calories, it starts to go back up. Okay. And that's explained by the homeostatic concept that I was saying before. When we're in a surplus of energy, you're making $100,000 a year and you're happy as a clam. You're like, cool, I can spend more money because I'm making more money. Right? We're in a surplus, all good. But when we're in a deficit, it's like, okay, we got to be pretty tight on things here. We don't have enough coming in. You talk to your spouse, you're like, hey, we gotta tighten up on our Starbucks and our avocado toast or whatever. No more brunch. No more bottomless mimosas. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Now we're gonna get into some really good artwork by me. Here we go. So here's what metabolic adaptation actually looks like. I'm going to give you some various examples, okay? Metabolism, TDEE in red. This is your total, right? Total of all 4 of those things. Always goes down over time when in a calorie deficit. This is what I was explaining with the illustration. Because BMR is reduced automatically as a protective response from the body to preserve itself in the presence of inadequate calories. Not enough calories coming in. Cool. Body's like, pull back expenses. we can't be spending as much money, and it pulls back on BMR so that it's not just like just blowing cash, blowing energy like crazy. So that's what this graph would look like. This is just BMR in red, or I guess TDE in red. But we know that that's a result of BMR coming down. It also affects, it's a piece of TDE. So TDE comes down in total because BMR is coming down. So it all just starts to, so that's what it looks like if someone was going to diet and we didn't change anything, right? Now, my job is to understand this, so I would never allow this to happen. I mean, to an extent this does happen, but on a shorter time horizon. I'll show you what that looks like. We can measure BMR by the estimated maintenance calories it requires to run your body's functions before working out and extra walking. So let me explain that. So BMR is, well, you can think of BMR as maintenance calories, right? So what I mean is, like, when you say run your body's functions before working out, extra walking, etc., it's kind of like this illustration here. So it's like BMR, just erase these guys, or think about like exercise, TEF, NEAT, forget about those for a second. Just BMR is like the amount of calories that it takes to run your basal metabolic rate and all of the functions involved with that. Those would be your maintenance calories. And then if you require more calories, it's because your NEAT is higher and your TEF is higher and your exercise is higher. So does that make sense? So it's like maintenance calories is here, and then anything above that would be here, okay? So we can kind of like conceptualize BMR as like the amount of calories it requires to just like maintain your body before you go for a walk, before you go to the gym, before any of that. And all of that adds on. So like, for example, right now, I'm eating around 2,500 calories right now to lose weight. My BMR is probably like 1,700 calories. I don't actually know, but let's say it's 1,500 calories for easy math, right? It's like 1,500 calories, and then I go to the gym, and then I go to, I do extra various things around the house, and I'm washing dishes, and I'm on my feet, and whatever, right? Or I'm training some in-person clients at my studio, whatever it is. And then I have lots of protein, a high fiber diet. I have tons of Brussels sprouts these days. So I have lots of TEF, right? So my total daily energy expenditure goes up because I've added onto my BMR. Right? So those three things that I talked about that we can affect, I affect those very specifically, and I leverage those to my advantage as much as I can. And so instead of 1,500 BMR, it's 1,500 BMR, 1,500 calories, it's maybe closer to like 23, 24, 2,500 calories, right? So that's the importance of like leveraging TEF, leveraging walking, leveraging NEAT, and leveraging exercise and working out, right? This is the biggest takeaway is just BMR is maintenance calories, okay? We'll come back to that. Here's how most people play this game and why they keep losing at it. Metabolic rate in red drops consistently every single month, leaving them trapped because they have no idea how this works or what they can do about it. So basically, this is what someone's fitness journey would kind of look like when it's like clunky, messy. They're doing a diet here and there, yo-yo dieting on and off, low carb here. They do a cleanse here, just a shake diet here. Whatever it is, then they go to the gym, then they're like, I'm just going to eat healthy. Oh, I don't want to do anything about the diet. Then they weigh themselves for a bit, and then they get stressed out all over the place, right? This could be over maybe like, well, I guess I have it here, week 1, week 40. So let's say this is over a year or two or something. But maybe they start out with 2,200 calories, so that's like their BMR. That's their basic maintenance calories that it takes, right? And then they diet for a bit. Cool. Maybe they even lose a little bit of weight. Remember, this is not a weight scale. This is just a graph of their metabolism, right? So their metabolic rate starts to drop as they lose weight, and then they're like, oh, I'm not seeing the results I want. I feel like I have so much fat. I just want to go have some wine and have some snacks. The boys are going out for wings, and screw this, I don't really actually care anymore. I don't want to go to the gym tonight. It's Friday. And then they fall off, and they feel like crap on Sunday, and then it's like, I don't want to start Monday. This is a waste of time. And then they end up spending some time there and falling off, and then they get to Wednesday, and they're like, okay, let's diet again. So then they diet again. They haven't really lost much weight. They probably gained it all back, but they dropped their metabolic rate dropped, right? And then they keep doing stuff like that over and over again every few weeks, every few months. But what's happening is this person probably is at the exact same body weight or very similar, but their metabolic rate is lower. That's horrible, right? So they get to this point where now it takes 1,000 calories to run their body, and they're probably the same body weight or higher, because now if you think about it, 1,000 calories, how easy is that to eat? Well, it's a lot easier than eating 2,200 calories. You can blow past that way easier, right? So this is how you get into a situation where someone feels trapped, where they're like, oh my goodness, I just see dessert and I feel like I gain weight. It's like, yeah, because you've done this for so long that you literally do have like a few extra bites of something and you gain a bunch of weight. So, I mean, that's a huge problem. So it stems from a misunderstanding of how metabolic rate works, and not just I need to eat less food and that's how I'll lose weight. It's like true, but they don't understand metabolism. They don't understand when you're yo-yo dieting constantly all over the place and you're not effective with any of them or consistent. You don't have the proper guidance or structure or setup. You end up not losing the weight you want or changing your body the way you want or sustaining it, but you end up just crashing your metabolism. So it gets worse and worse over time. So then every time you diet, it gets harder. Okay. This is why so many people can't lose weight unless they starve themselves and barely eat. Like I was saying, their BMR is in the toilet, which brings their total, I guess should be here. Whoops. Brings their total daily energy expenditure down as well, right? So BMR just tanks, and then their TDE tanks as well. They follow this horrific cycle that tanks their basal metabolic rate instead of boosting it, right? And this is what I help people do. Everyone's plan has various phases where we need to be doing pro-metabolic activities, is what I call it. They start with a diet and a calorie deficit, great, but they don't stay consistent with it, leading to short periods of time where they do have a lot more food. This is where you see the spikes in metabolism, like you saw in this graph here. It's not just straight down. You see some spikes here because it's like they do spend some time eating more food, great, but it's so inconsistent. And then followed by more inconsistent restriction with no real plan or structure. So it's like on a diet, off a diet, on a diet, off a diet. When really with my clients, they're always on a diet. There's always a nutrition plan, but there's varying goals within that. And some of the goals are around losing body weight, losing body fat. And then some of the phases are deliberately adding food in and eating as much food as we can in a controlled manner so that we can boost metabolism. But if people don't know that that's what they're trying to do and they don't have a certain time frame attached to that, they don't actually do that. They're just constantly trying to diet, or they're either accidentally not dieting or they're deliberately trying to diet. But everything's still structured around like dieting or not dieting. Sprinkle in reduced lean muscle, so they're losing muscle. They're not working out hard enough or consistently. No focus on walking. They're just walking here and there, but no consistent step targets that they're trying to achieve. Not focusing on NEAT, and all of a sudden you have a metabolic rate that just keeps dropping lower every single time they try these diets. But they're not seeing the results they want. And they're literally making it worse every single time they do it. This results in a tanked metabolism, and not only makes it way easier to gain fat, but it also makes it harder and harder to lose weight every time you try again. It's horrible. What a horrible situation where it's infinitely easier to gain fat now, and it's harder and harder to lose weight every time you try again. When I set my clients up, the goal is to lose body fat if that's what they need to do at the start of their transformation. But the goal in the long term is to get them to a point where their metabolism is so freaking stoked that they can enjoy dessert, appetizers, some alcoholic beverages out at a restaurant, have some bread with olive tapenade and hummus before the dinner with friends. They can enjoy Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving and all birthdays in a healthy way, but they don't have to overthink it because their metabolism just soaks it up. So I want to create a person, an organism, where it becomes very hard to gain weight. For most people, it's very easy to gain weight. And a lot of this comes down to many reasons, but in regards to this presentation, it comes down to a misunderstanding of how metabolism works. Here's how you should play this game if you want to win and you want to build a stoked metabolism. So this is how I set my clients up, and I set myself up. This is how we play this game because we understand how metabolism actually works, and we know that 12 weeks isn't your ticket to the body you love. 12-week fat loss. It's like, great, I do that with clients all the time, but that's not the ticket. You don't lose fat over 12 weeks and then it's like, cool, I'm fit now. That's not how that works. You just created a whole bunch of new problems. Again, metabolic adaptation, we already went over that. We can't escape that. We can just work with it, understand how it works, and then set up the subsequent phases afterwards to repair that, right? And set ourselves up for stoked metabolism in the long term. But if you don't, and you just stop the diet phase and you just go back to old habits, or I guess what some people do, they try and diet forever. That sounds horrible. Just trying to eat less forever. Sounds zero fun. This shit takes years, and your fitness plan should reflect that. Zoom out. It's a lot longer than you think. If you're not ready for a long transformation, don't even start. Don't even bother, in my opinion. I've been doing this for 17 years, and I'm only getting better every year because I learn more. I just chip away with my body, but I haven't loved my body this whole time. I mean, I guess I have, but I haven't loved how it looks the whole time. I go through periods of time where I'm like, I don't love how this looks, but maybe that's not the goal. Maybe the goal is strength performance, or maybe it's something else, or maybe I'm focusing on a intuitive eating skill, or I'm focused on something else. That's okay. But I have to look and feel certain ways to get to the next level, right? And over time, if you zoom out long enough, I have gotten better every single year. Do this. Lose large amounts of weight. This is what you should do. Lose large amounts of weight with diet breaks to boost metabolism instead of trying to shoot for the total goal in one shot. So what I'm saying here is basically like if you have 40 plus pounds to lose, so 40, 50, 60, 70, that's not a hard cutoff. But in general, if I have a client that has 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds to lose, I recommend and or just pre-plan it into their transformation where they're going to have a diet break. So what that basically looks like is like not setting them up for like, okay, cool, we're going to lose weight for the next year. That's a long freaking time. We can do that, and that may be appropriate for some people, 12-month fat loss phase, but I would prefer to break it up. So maybe a 3 or 4 month fat loss phase, followed by a 3-month metabolism phase where we reboost and build up the metabolism again, because we know metabolic adaptation is happening during that calorie deficit, and we want to respond to that in a healthy way. So it's like, okay, lose weight, metabolic rate is dropping, move back, lose a bunch of weight, and metabolic rate is down. That's just what happens, self-preservation, body's natural response. And then we add in a bunch of food, keep pro-metabolic activities up so that we can actually keep our body fat percentage exactly where it is. And then metabolic rate comes back up. And we do that for maybe 12 weeks or so. That's kind of my default that I like for most people. And then go back into a diet phase again. Their body weight's still the exact same, but now their metabolism's higher. So now it's like, cool, way easier to lose the rest of the body weight because our metabolism's way higher than what it was when we just ended the last phase. Okay, so this is what it looks like. 16-week cut. So 16-week diet phase, boom, metabolic rate comes down, right? We know it just keeps going down. We recognize, cool, let's say we lost 20, 25 pounds here. Cool, okay, let's spend 4 to 12 weeks eating more food to get a little boost of metabolism. Cool, now metabolism's up here, so when we pull away food, it's a lot easier than if we pull away food here because your metabolism's higher here, right? Way easier to eat more food and lose fat. I find I would prefer to lose fat eating way more food, right? I think most people would. And then we go back and do another 4-week cut, lose maybe another 10, 12 pounds here. Bam. Metabolic rate drops again, which we know is normal, and then we respond again, and we respond again. And then after we're done, maybe we lose all the weight we need to. So it's like, okay, 25 pounds here, another 10 pounds here, another 10 pounds here, so 35, 45. So we've lost 45, 50 pounds. Cool, maybe that was our goal weight. We love how we look. Now we're trying to maintain our body fat percentage, and then we are spending months and months and months building muscle and spending time eating more food to rebuild our metabolism over the next several years. And maybe you go into a fat loss phase again in the future, but that's what it would look like, okay? Even if you have a small amount of weight to lose, you shouldn't be spending too much time in a weight loss phase. Most time is spent outside of weight loss. Most people get this wrong. This is also a huge problem, big misconception. Instead, focusing on re-up-regulating metabolism and building muscle strength. That's what we should be doing. So weight loss phase, get in, do the job, get the frick out, or take a break, right? But we should be spending lots of time outside of a weight loss phase, actually more time. So what it could look like is something like this, 8-week cut, and then long time here, spent lots and lots of time here rebuilding our metabolism while maintaining our body fat percentage. So if we had a photo here, the person here, they would look just as lean as they do up here, but now their basal metabolic rate and their maintenance calories, their metabolism is way higher. So now they pull away their calories a little bit, boom, for this 4-week cut, and they drop fat really easily. And now they can go back into a metabolism phase, hypertrophy, strength phase, whatever it is, and just focus on maintaining their body fat percentage now, all the weight that they lost, all the body fat that they lost, and just rebuild their metabolism over long term so they can enjoy all the food at Thanksgiving, birthdays, Christmas, all that stuff. That makes life way more enjoyable as opposed to constantly just freaking dieting forever, which so many people I feel like get stuck doing because they just don't know what to do. So 12 weeks total of weight loss and being, well, this is kind of me breaking it down. So 8 plus 4, 12 weeks, right? These are 8-week cut, 4-week cut. So 12 weeks total of weight loss and being in a calorie deficit. Other than those 12 weeks, they were in 30 weeks, if this is like a 40-week time horizon, 30 plus weeks total of rebuilding your BMR maintenance calories and either gaining weight or, like if we want to gain some muscle, or just maintaining our weight. And body fat percentage should be managed in both scenarios in an effective way. So you see 30 weeks outside of a fat loss phase, 12 weeks inside. So you should be way more, your total transformation and fitness journey, you should spend way more time outside of that. If you find like for you fitness equals fat loss, you got to divorce those ideas. That's not what that is. Fitness has fat loss within it, but fitness is not fat loss. Rebuilding metabolism illustrated using the example above. Okay, so note the maintenance calories increasing past where they started after an 8-week cut and even more time outside the cut. So that's what this is. This is the same the same illustration here. This is how you increase basal metabolic rate long term, making it easier to stay lean or cut again because your calorie requirements are much higher than before. So basically what this means is, AK, you can eat more food at a lower body fat percentage. So leaner, but eating more food. That's freaking awesome. That's the goal with all of this. And we do this by spending a lot of time outside the cut, outside of the diet phase, okay? We want to increase our metabolic rate long term, making it easier to stay lean or cut again if you want, because your calorie requirements continue to climb. And they're higher than they were before, okay? For a lot of my clients, I get them leaner, but their metabolism is actually much higher, their BMR is much higher than what it was when they started with me, which is the goal. And this is kind of what this could look like, right? So 2,200 calories to start here. Okay, this person maybe is very fat, not much muscle, and then, okay, cool, we put them into a diet phase, build a little bit of muscle, and then they're down to a point where, okay, they lost a bunch of weight, so now their maintenance calories is 1,200 calories, so it's like, crap, do we want to keep going lower? That's pretty hard. This makes sense. This is the problem of metabolic adaptation. So what do? We understand this. We decide to take a diet break and move them out of the diet and move them into a metabolism phase where we just focus on increasing metabolism, gaining lots of strength, building muscle, enjoying the workouts, eating lots of food, and then doing that for an extended period of time until, holy crap, they're eating 3,000 calories, but they haven't gained really any body fat, maybe a little bit, but not much. They still look freaking awesome. Really, really lean, very similar body fat percentage than when they were here. And then it's like, cool, they're like, I'm pretty lean, but I think I really want to make my abs pop. Okay, let's go into a hard 4-week cut, and that's what they do here. And then they go out of it and move back into a metabolism phase. So that's kind of the idea here, right? It's far easier and more enjoyable to lose weight while eating more food. I think most people would understand this truism. So your entire game plan should be set up to prioritize things that allow you to eat more food, in my opinion. Health matters. Enjoying life matters. I like being shredded. I like looking lean. I like feeling lean. I like feeling healthy. But I enjoy food too. So how do we marry those two? This is how to do that. We can do both. Things like walking a lot every single day or any kind of low skill, easy to do movements you enjoy. Lifting weights and training hard. Burning the muscle isn't enough. You got to train really freaking hard. Hard training that actually builds muscle is very uncomfortable. Okay, so these are two things that I use with all my clients: walking a lot, lifting weights, and training hard. And then the third one: following scheduled phases that prioritize building your metabolism or burning fat, not both. Okay, we got to understand that. We got to spend lots of time in the metabolism side, not too much time in the burning fat side. Although if you have fat to lose, you'll have to spend some time there, sure. Ultimately, this is the takeaway if you want to have a stoked metabolism that has high turnover and makes fat loss and being lean easy while eating lots of food. Here we go. Spend more time outside a calorie deficit than inside one. These are the rules. You got to remember that. Spend more time building your metabolism than you do burning it down. Okay? This is kind of the main takeaway from those. Check these 2 episodes out of my podcast, Stay Peaked, if you want. I do an episode every single Wednesday. You can listen to more stuff related to metabolism, fat loss, and food. These episodes in particular, fat loss hacks that actually work. I did 10 of them, shared 10 of them, and then how to lose fat with more food. So episode 58, episode 66. You can just search the titles on YouTube or DM me and I'll send them over to you. They're on Spotify as well and Apple. But however you saw this video, however I send it to you, you can always just message me and I will hook you up with those. Not sure if you're not sure how to plan your transformation and fitness journey over the rest of the year. If you're not a client of mine, I want to invite you to book a free game plan Zoom call with me, and we can map out the appropriate phases for 2025 to make sure you are optimized to get exactly what you want this year. If you may be not watching this video in 2025, which is fine, but we can map out the next 12 months. January right now of 2025. So mapping out the next 12 months, you should know this. You should know at the bare minimum the next 6 months, but mapping out the next 12 months, they don't have to be perfect, but you should have an idea of what the schedule looks like. And I can help you do exactly that. 1 hour free game plan call. There's no strings attached. We can chat about my coaching if you're interested for sure, but we don't have to. It's totally free, and I can just help you map it out using a whiteboard on Canva like this. I can do a Zoom screen share and kind of show you exactly how I would do it. Yeah, let me know. What you can do is basically, if you're interested, reply to the message that you were sent this video in, and I'll just send you the link and we'll book you in. But yeah, hopefully this helped you understand a lot more about how metabolism works and common problems that people come across. So if you have any questions as well, just feel free to message me.